Now for something completely different. We made a lot of changes about how our app looks, but we haven't done anything about how it sounds. Let's investigate how to add sound to our application. The first thing we need is the sound file we want to hear when the crystal ball is spinning. We'll use an MP3 file that's available for download on the page below this video. While it's downloading, let's add a new folder in our project in Eclipse. Audio and video files, among a few other types, are called raw resource files, and we put them in a raw folder of our resource or res directory. So right-click on res, select New, Folder, and then type the name raw and hit Finish. Our raw folder gets added here in Package Explorer, and now we can drag our audio file in here, just like we did with the images before. Open up Finder or Windows Explorer, grab the MP3 we just downloaded, drag it over the raw folder like this, and then let go. Make sure Copy Files is selected, and then click OK. We want the sound to play when we tap on the button, so just like before with the animations, we're going to add a new method and call it from the onClick method of the button. In mainActivity.java, add a new line under our animateAnswer method, and type private void play sound. Open close parentheses, an open curly brace, and hit enter. We're going to use an Android class called Media Player that is used to play audio and video files or streams. If you haven't noticed already, Android has all sorts of tools and useful objects built in. We just need to know how to find them and how to use them in our own code. It's usually pretty straightforward, and the Media Player is no different. Inside our new method, let's declare and instantiate a Media Player variable. Type Media Player, and let's name our variable Player. Type equals, but now instead of using the new keyword and a constructor like we have before, we're going to use what is known as a static method. Type Media Player again, dot create, and then let's stop for a minute to look at the IntelliSense information. It says this is a convenience method to create a media player for a given resource ID. And at the bottom, it tells us we should use the release method to free the resources when we're done with the media player so that we don't end up with too many media player instances. Hit enter to select the first item from IntelliSense, and now let's set the parameters. The first is the context, which is the current state of the application. In other words, it's the context in which this media player will be running, which is important for the media player object to know. Context is very important in Android programming, and we'll see it a lot in methods like this. We'll need to let a lot of things know about the current context in which they'll be operating. When we're inside an activity, like we are now in the main activity, we can use a special keyword called this. In Java, the this keyword means to use the current object it's being used in, i.e. this object is the main activity object. Our main activity class is a subclass of the Android activity class, which is actually a subclass of the Android context class. That means our main activity is also a subclass of the context because, through this inheritance, things from the context class are inherited by activity and subsequently inherited by main activity. It's like context is the grandparent of our main activity class. Anyhow, back in our method, the second parameter is the ID of the resource we want to play with this media player. Type dot, and look, there's our MP3 raw resource. Hit enter, add a semicolon, and then a new line. We start the sound by calling the start method, so type player.start. This will play our sound, but now we need to follow that advice we got from IntelliSense earlier and release the media player when we're done with it. Now remember when we created an on-click listener for our button, and it just sits there and listens for the button to be clicked or tapped? We're going to use that same concept here, except it will be an on-completion listener, meaning that it will listen for when our media player is done playing the file. Behind the scenes, our media player object is going to broadcast a little message that says, all done, and we want a receiver or listener who will react to that message and then release the media player we created here. On a new line, type player.setOn, and then select the setOnCompletion listener from IntelliSense. Delete the dummy listener parameter, and then let's add a semicolon before we forget. Now for the parameter, we're going to create a new one, just like when we created a new on-click listener for our button. Type new on completion, and then hit Control plus space for IntelliSense. There's the code we need, but we have an error. Hover over it, and we see that it cannot be resolved to a type. That means we need to organize our imports. Hit Command-Shift-O or Control-Shift-O, and the error goes away. So when this new listener detects that the media player has completed its action, it will run the code inside the onCompletion method. This is where we want to release the media player. Notice on line 68 that the media player is passed in as a parameter named MP. This is actually a reference to the same player media player we created, but we want to use this MP name for scoping purposes. Let's delete the comment and type mp.release. And then before we forget, let's make sure we call our playSound method in the onClick method up above. So here under Animate Answer, add a new line and type playSound. Now save our changes and run our app to listen to it. It'll play in the emulator using our computer speakers. So if we click on the button, cool, there's our sound. Wow, that was a gold medal effort. We saw how to use the media player class to play an audio file, and we learned how to handle it properly so that we wouldn't use up too many resources and cause a crash. Way to stick with it. I think our app is pretty much perfect. Well, almost. There's just one more thing I want to show you. So take a quick code challenge and then meet me on the other side.